from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hey, welcome in, everyone. Dom Giordano sitting in tonight on America at Night. And, of course, that number you can reach me at, 833-482-5337. Dom Time from Philadelphia from Talk Radio 1210. Follow me on Twitter at DomShow1210. Special guest later this hour, Ryan Walters, former superintendent of schools in Oklahoma, a guy in the center of a lot of controversy, and somebody who developed a curriculum which essentially laid out step by step what Oklahoma would be teaching about socialism. Florida did that today, a curriculum I really like, saying from kindergarten through high school, here are the things that you say about communism. Oh, we'll get to all this tonight. But first, as we develop here on America at Night, this just coming down, ICE has officially said, and look, we can complain and say, well, why didn't this happen before? Yeah, I know. One of the biggest things to do to get people to self-deport, to stop the invasion of the country, and that is ICE officially now says they will turn their attention toward employers, toward people employing people knowingly that are here illegally. They don't have to be criminal illegal aliens, just here illegally. And the argument is these employers know it, and they're doing it, and they're undercutting America. That's just coming down. I know. How many months in now? 10, 11 months in before they finally got the plot. How many years have we said this, that this is the way to go? That absolutely going after the Sheriff Joe Arpaio, I was thinking of. I don't think he's passed. I don't think in Arizona used to have on the show. And that's what he did. Go after the employers. You put one of these employers of a major company involved in this in jail, and you're going to see action. You're going to see less of this nonsense. It is absolutely, they're sending that message out tonight just before I came on air. And, of course, in the background is the whole issue of the Epstein matter. Tomorrow, as I understand it, in the House, they'll be voting on it. And it appears now, not only will Republicans, along with Democrats, vote to release the files, I don't believe it will be unanimous, but this guy, Troy Nellis from Texas, who was one of the biggest holdouts in the last few hours, has said, no, he's voting to release the documents, the files tomorrow. Now, you know, it's a long step. We got all kinds of still moving parts, and President Trump late yesterday acknowledged that, calling on that. I had Bill O'Reilly on my show in Philadelphia today. He says, well, you're going to see people hurt who really didn't engage with Epstein, but he mentions them. I'm not in that camp. I think we have to see this. Trump ran on it. MAGA wants it. The nation wants it, etc. And it's not saying that Trump is going to have big responsibility in this, given that Democrats had that for 4 years under the Biden administration. You know they would have gone after him if there was any kind of smoking gun. So why was Trump still trying to protect on this? That's the billion-dollar question. All right, it seems to be unanswerable. I'm told pretty reliably, though, that you are going to see 50 Republicans at least. Now the number has kind of moved the over and under at 100 Republicans or more will be on board with this. The question is, are you? I certainly am. I've been on board with it for quite a while. Why would we not do that? Democrats will overplay their hand on this. They did it last week when some of the emails were released. Yes, there might be people tangentially mentioned here that didn't really do anything wrong. They just know Epstein, took a picture with him, God knows what, and they may have something to answer for here, even though, we think the public will discern that and be able to sort out those that really didn't do anything, didn't go to the island, etc. Alan Dershowitz once told me, Dom, I want you to know I kept my pants on at all times. Is that the standard? Did you keep your pants on at all times? That was Dershowitz on my show in Philadelphia. All right, this will be cut 4. Here is a little analysis from the chief Washington correspondent for ABC News about President Trump reversing himself and saying, yes, open up the Epstein files.
Chief Washington correspondent John Carl. John, no question this is a big political shift. Legally, not so clear.
Yeah, look, George, politically, Donald Trump did everything in his power to prevent this vote from happening, and now suddenly he is calling on Republicans to vote in favor of releasing the Epstein files. Now, keep in mind, this is a reversal that comes as Donald Trump was on the verge of his biggest political defeat of his second term. He is essentially calling on Republicans to vote for something that many of them were already planning to vote for. None of this, although, means that these files will be released. If Trump wanted to release the Epstein files, he could do it right now. He could do it this morning. He could have done it last month. In his statement overnight, he said that Congress can have whatever they are, quote, legally entitled to have, which means, George, now he could use the excuse of an ongoing investigation, which he has also just called for, into Democrats, to block the release of the files.
Yeah, we're going to have to be watching that. Meantime, this is really, you said it would have been the president's biggest defeat. This has opened the biggest divide between President Trump and his MAGA movement.
It sure has. It's exposed this rift. For some of Trump's most fervent supporters, the issue of the Epstein files is of paramount importance. They have been calling for the release for years. For some of them, a significant number of them, it's even more important than their support for Donald Trump. That's why, George, two of the most diehard Trump supporters, at least until now, have led the charge on this: Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert.
All right, so could this be unanimous tomorrow? I'm going to say there's going to be some Republican, just for notoriety's sake, whatever, thinking, wink, wink, carrying favor with the president. He or she will not vote for it. But this is going to be staggering. The dam has burst here in the early evening or so, where people are actually talking about a unanimous vote on this. And I think, by and large, that's certainly what people want. Now, what will Trump do then? What will he say would be released? We have to go through the Senate. I realize there's a myriad of things, but at least on the surface, the ball is moving forward. All righty, 833-482-5337. The welcome news to me that ICE will now be going after employers. I mean, employers are completely unsympathetic in this, at least with people here illegally. That haven't committed other crimes. You could say, well, they're just trying to escape poverty. They've been here forever. You know all the arguments. What's the argument for people employing people that are here illegally, knowingly, to undercut American workers and to do whatever they want? And they've been doing it forever. Now, will they? It seems like President Trump's not all on board with this. When they've gone after things before, ICE, he has kind of pulled that back. We're going to see. It's a real test of what he means on immigration. Isn't this the surest way to get people to self-deport, to dry up the jobs, and to stop this? Go after the employers. Charge some of them with crimes that are associated with this because they are committing criminal acts. They're knowingly doing this. They have to have identity theft and everything else involved. So why in the world would we not go down that path? Doesn't it make more sense? Isn't it more cost effective to do that? And that just coming down just right before airtime that they've officially said now that's where they're going to move. All right, the president with McDonald's today, we'll talk about that. All out war on affordability, which is a good thing. He's also said he's going to go across the country and barnstorm, or at least hold rallies for the midterms. And that $2,000 check, I'm still in the camp that thinks it won't happen. But in his argument, because of all the benefits that came in from the tariffs, Americans under certain income levels, he said shortly after June, maybe sometime in the summer, I could see them doing a July 4th thing, will get that $2,000 check. And Democrats are going nuts tonight because that would be right in the sweet spot to be moving toward the midterms. I'm still in the camp that thinks they're going to say it's inflationary, not going to happen, but that's what he talked about at McDonald's. He did talk about the big, beautiful bill, which is the right thing to do to remind people all the benefit in that, including the no tax on tips and the no tax essentially on overtime. Here's how you get in, right at the top of the show. 833-482-5337. So a lot of breaking news here. We got a lot of great guests coming up tonight. And Bill Ackman, this is a wild story, maybe in the last hour, billionaire, says that young men are having trouble approaching young women, so they go online. He's got a question, he says, they ought to ask young women as the way to approach them. And he is being ridiculed. He's a billionaire. Unbelievably. I'll tell you a little bit later on what he says to do. Oh, my God. It's Dom Giordano here on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
That is right. It is America at Night. Welcome in. Dom Giordano, always great to be sitting in on America at Night. Follow me on Twitter at DomShow1210. Alrighty, 833-482-5337. Talking about the news right before we came on that now ICE will be targeting employers in the sense that finally they're going to go after the people that are benefiting from all this at the cost of other Americans. And in addition to that, I don't know about unanimous, but it is going to be overwhelming tomorrow, release the Epstein files. And there have been some people to praise on this. I'm friend with Jeff Andrew. He's a congressman from New Jersey and a big ally of the president, but he voted to discharge it way back when. Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a couple of others, Nancy Mace, they voted to do it before the groundswell started. And tomorrow you're going to see that. Bill and Hillary Clinton refusing to testify at this point. Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's go to Paul in Boise, Idaho, here on America at Night. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Dom.
Yes, Paul.
Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I think that the Trumpsters are going to get exonerated about having any culpability with the photos or likeness of him, or even AI. I'm leaning more towards AI.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul. Thank you. I don't know about AI having anything to do with this. That's okay. But the breaking news is we got a groundswell tomorrow. It's going to be interesting to see what Mike Johnson does. Even the leadership might vote for this. And that is big news. But I think the bigger news is all of a sudden ICE says they are going to go after the people knowingly employing people here illegally. Now, it's a court case. Can you prove it, et cetera? But many of these major companies are doing that. Of course, the backlash has already started. Do you know what this means? America will not be able to have X, Y, or Z unless we have people here illegally able to do that in full knowledge of the public. We're going to see. I think this is going to be much more sympathetic to the average. You know the stories. This person did nothing. They didn't commit crimes. They've been here X number of years, and something happened when they were arrested. Are the Democrats, or the media, Catholic Church, remember we talked about them, the bishops with illegal immigration? Are the bishops, we talked about them on Friday night here in America at Night, are they going to issue another special message defending the employers? How could you defend the employers, bishops, and others? It's going to be interesting. I think they're among the most unsympathetic targets out there. Now, why didn't ICE do this before? Well, I think President Trump was reluctant. I'm calling him out on that. Let's see what he does. Just before I came on, saw several ICE people. Yes, we are going to be going after official statements, the employers hoping to get people to self-deport because the jobs won't be there. And we're not talking about mom and pop and all that. I think we're going to see mid-range companies and up who knowingly are doing this. You know, probably the likely suspects, landscaping of one sort, construction, car washes, things like that. That's what you're going to see. And it's going to be interesting to see how America reacts to that. I think it will react very well, but that's where we are. All right, 833-482-5337. Here's President Trump talking tonight, too. This will be cut 5. Trump at the McDonald's thing, talking about the big, beautiful bill and the impact of it.
While Democrats wanted to give Americans the largest tax hike in history in July, I proudly gave you the largest tax cuts in American history and signed the one big, beautiful bill. I call it the great, big, beautiful bill into law. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. That is a big deal.
Okay. He's absolutely right. And I know it sticks in Trump's craw, the affordability stuff and all that. He's got to get over that. America is having trouble with certain products. I had to buy Band-Aids yesterday. Just having only big ones in the house. Had to get a variety pack. Oh, my God. Cost of Band-Aids. It's going to be random. Certain prices are out of line a little bit later in the show. I'll tell you, as with a name like Dom Giordano, you can imagine pasta. 107% tariff potentially on Italian pasta brands. Okay? American brands can compete with them, and there's a big dispute going on, and the Commerce Department is making claims about that. And I'll tell you where I am in Philadelphia, particularly South Philly, which is heavily Italian Market, 9th Street. Big stuff today. 107% tariff. This is one of the foods left off the 200 food products that would be protected. Coming up, Ryan Walters, former superintendent of schools in Oklahoma. I had him on my show in Philadelphia talking about how the socialists get elected. One of the reasons is the schools. If not indoctrination, something close to it. Florida drops their new curriculum on teaching communism, including, was Joe McCarthy such a bad guy after all? Now, I've read a couple books on McCarthy. There were a lot of commies. He did a good job on that, but his personal over-the-top stuff at times was repellent. I don't know what Walters will say, and he's got a new group taking on the teachers' unions. Great stuff coming up with Ryan Walters, but you get in at 833-482-5337, taking on the employers. What took so long? Well, it's happening now. That's a big stride forward. And the big vote tomorrow. We'll get all that. After all, it's America at Night with Dom Giordano sitting in on Westwood One.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, it's America at Night. Dom Giordano, and just a great guest that was in the center of so many things when he was in Oklahoma Superintendent of Schools. Now has a group which is dedicated to freeing up teachers so they don't have to be members of teachers' unions. Ryan Walters joins us here on America at Night. Ryan, great to talk with you as always.
Dom, always great to talk to you. Appreciate you having me on tonight.
Well, before we get to teachers' unions, when you were with me in Philadelphia in studio, it really struck a chord because you pivoted toward talking about socialism. Where does that come from? What did Oklahoma do? Just want to marry it to something. I don't know if you saw this in the last couple of days, that in Florida they've issued a new curriculum, Ryan, on how communism should be taught. And I think this is even stronger. Socialism maybe a modicum of debate. I'm talking about 0.01%, but communism, and a lot of flack because they take the side pretty much of Joe McCarthy. So what did you try to do, first of all, mandate as far as the teaching of socialism in Oklahoma?
Yeah, what we did was, and I think every state has got to look at this, we wrote all of our history standards because we get in there and we start looking and we go, listen, you got all this woke nonsense in there, and you've got this downplaying of the effects of communism, of socialism, and you've got this anti-American slant, anti-free market, and anti-capitalism slant in all of your curriculum. So we overdid the whole thing, and we put an emphasis on American exceptionalism, an understanding of capitalism, and then we also went into great detail about all of the isms there of that kind of left-wing ideology, Marxism, communism, socialism, defining the terms, seeing throughout history the impacts there, redid our economics courses so that students could understand the way economies work. And again, these aren't just theories. You actually have historical evidence here to show what they do. And so that's something that was very important to us. And so we did it. The teachers' unions fought us like crazy, sued me, I don't know, half a dozen times trying to block the standards from getting into place. So I think it's so important. I love what Florida's doing. Great governor down there, great superintendent down there. So I love what they're doing. But look, our kids don't understand communism, Marxism, socialism, and you hear it so much today. Young people are sitting here saying we should try this, and I'm going, guys, is there no understanding of world history whatsoever? That has been tried. We know what happens, and that's why you got this election like you do in New York City today.
Yeah, that's the biggest. It's not even, I maintain, I think you just kind of agreed with me, it's not just they don't know what this and where it leads to. They think it's never been tried, that it's new, it's exciting. The juices are flowing here with this. That's the biggest thrill that it gives, I think.
That's exactly right. And I mean, and that's the thing that frustrates me the most about the whole thing is because you've seen the propaganda pushed on kids from grade school on. Now, obviously, you see it in higher ed, right? You see it in our colleges and universities, but you see it as early as 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, where they are taught that there's this new capitalism bad, free market bad. There's this new idea that's really catching fire, and you're going, no. Let students understand the history here. Let them see what happened in Russia. Let them see what happened in China. Let them see what's happened in Europe. And let's do a deep dive into economic theory. Let's do a deep dive in history. And again, you don't have young people out there today going, well, why wouldn't we try something new? We're going, guys, it's not new. It's not new at all, actually.
On my show in Philadelphia today, we do a side question, the softer side of Sears, a fun thing. And we were asking because of Epstein, the most despicable American ever, like a Bernie Madoff, things like that. And some guy who won called in with Howard Zinn, the author of the textbooks.
Yep.
How prominent is that? Has it grown? I know in Oklahoma you'd be on that, but the Zinn look, not just America, but he makes the case for Castro and Chairman Mao and people like that. I think people listening are unaware yet, Ryan, of that name and how prominent it is.
Okay, well, let me tell you. Listeners, look it up. Howard Zinn, it's the People's History of the United States. It was the most popular history book in colleges and high schools in our country. And it is a complete Marxist view of history. That's what it is. It was the most prominent history book in your high schools and your colleges. That is what kids have been reading for the last 20 or 30 years. It is appalling. It's not historical, first of all. Second of all, it is all from a socialist slant. It is all propaganda. And that name, he was lionized by your higher ed community, by your college left-wing professors, and catapulted as this preeminent historian, and it's garbage. But no, it is the most popular history book available. And so you've seen, we fought back on that in Oklahoma. We've seen some other red states fight back on that. But that's the type of propaganda your kids are getting in their schools. It has no place in high school curriculum. It's absolutely not historically accurate, and it is, frankly, it is a undermining of American history is really what it is.
Talking with Ryan Walters here. Ryan, it would have been ahead of the curve, and you were probably thinking about it, but did you put directives out? And what would the Oklahoma schools, or you say now, is the definition of fascism, which I find to be a more nuanced. I associate it with Mussolini. I know a little bit in that vein. And here's another term, when thrown around now, just means Trump and Trump supporters. What did you try to do in Oklahoma on this?
Yeah, and that's, again, defining the terms. What is fascism? And then understanding the historical context. So we have a course in totalitarianism in general, and then we go into socialism, fascism, communism, Marxism. What are the differences here? How have they played out historically? What are the theories behind them? Because, again, we want to educate kids. We want to make sure kids understand all of these concepts. Don't just throw these terms around and act like, I mean, again, you hear the silliness. I mean, frankly, I say silliness. It's actually dangerous. They throw these terms around against people like President Trump, and it's silly. It is not an accurate description by any stretch of the imagination, but it's done to try to connect him to Hitler, to Nazism, which is a complete twisting of those terms, and also it is absolutely meant to demonize our president, and is meant to demonize conservatives, and frankly, it's meant to put a target on their backs. And so again, a historical dive into these terms, and a historical dive into actual people that use that train of thought is so important here. And then you see the connection for young people to go, whoa. That's a very loaded term that you're using today in a very flippant manner. Well, frankly, they've used it in such an absurd way. It's almost lost all meaning in our society today because they've so twisted the term.
Absolutely. Before we talk after the break of teachers' unions and what you're doing around that, your day job now, so to speak, in Pennsylvania, the governor, who is a presidential contender who's been running since 8th grade for that, has now broken ground. It took him a while, but he's gone after media literacy in all public schools, so-called media literacy. I look at the program in Jersey, and what this is usually is a cover to never accept a source like Ryan Walters or Dom Giordano or what we're talking about, which I think is pretty objective here, although, mixed in with some of where our opinion comes in. These media literacy states, Jersey's one, are there about a dozen or so nationally who mandate that, and they're telling kids this is the only way you can determine truth through this methodology.
And again, it is used to propagandize our kids. What you see them do is they do things like, don't listen to talk radio, don't listen to conservative voices. You can only listen to CNN, the New York Times, all of these media establishment left-wing sources, and they sit here and tell kids these are the only ways to get information. And by the way, they've shown this is the only benefit, I would say, Dom, is they've shown it's a very losing strategy because some of the most influential voices in the last election were talk radio, were podcasts, were people outside the mainstream media that go, hey, guys, we'll tell you how we feel about things, but we're going to walk you through why we think that way. We're going to walk you through the stats. We're going to walk you through the data. We're going to walk you through history. And, yeah, this is our conclusion, but here it all is. And, frankly, folks like you, Dom, that are out here on the radio for hours explaining, look, this is why I think this way. Look, here's what the other side says, but here's my view on it. That is so powerful rather than a left-wing propagandist who only gives you a little bit of information, never defends their point of view, just attacks the other side, gives them names like Nazis and fascists, and never, frankly, even addresses the arguments. And this is why the left hated Charlie Kirk so bad. What did he go out and do? Hey, I want to talk through all of these ideas with all of you.
Exactly. All right, coming up, we're going to talk with Ryan Walters a bit more here on America at Night. His day job, as I said now, is trying to give teachers independence, is the way I would put it, from teachers' unions to protect them, health insurance, that kind of thing. This is a big national movement. That's next here. Dom Giordano with you with Ryan Walters on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
That's right. That's America at Night. Dom Giordano from Talk Radio 1210 in Philadelphia sitting in with special guest Ryan Walters. So, Ryan, after the work you did in Oklahoma, and people can tell the big work there, talk about teachers' unions and what you're trying to do to free up teachers. The Janus Supreme Court decision essentially saying you don't have to be a member of a teachers' union to teach is what, about 7 years old. And finally, we're starting to see teachers move on that.
Well, thank you, Dom. And you know, what we saw and what I saw in Oklahoma, our number one opponent was the teachers' unions. They sued us. They attacked us, attacked our staff. They went and weaponized the court system against us, and they spent millions of dollars politically to attack us and own politicians to push their agenda. And so as Janus has come out, they're the biggest, frankly, they're one of the biggest enemies of the country. When you see the Democrat candidates they fund, you see the way that they use these nasty tactics against all of their opponents. And so we had to defeat them to have the biggest education reform in the country in Oklahoma. But nationally, they have to be defeated. And what we've continued to see is even after Janus, what do? They bully and pressure teachers to join the union. They tell teachers lie after lie about you have to be in our organization to get benefits of contracts with districts, to have liability insurance, to get your professional development, to get your training, to keep your certificates. All of those things are not true. You do not have to be in the union for those things. So we started an organization called the Teacher Freedom Alliance and said, listen, we'll get you professional development, the best in the country, and it won't be woke. We will give you liability insurance. We'll make sure that you're covered legally. We will make sure that you're never cut out of any kind of benefit with your local school district. You don't have to join the union. And so we have seen an explosion of membership, thousands of members across the country. We're pro-America. We're proud of it. And we've got a ton of teachers around the country that go, that's exactly what we want. Professional development trainings to be better teachers, not social justice warriors. We want good America values in our schools. We actually want to create good American citizens because we know the only way, as Benjamin Franklin said it's a republic if you can keep it. And the only way we can keep it is by making sure the next generation understands America, American values, and the importance of the principles that this country was founded on. And so that's what we're doing at the Teacher Freedom Alliance.
Where do people go? Website, information, where do they go, Ryan?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dom. Teacherfreedom.com, teacherfreedom.com. Again, teachers, join up. Listeners, if you know any teachers haven't signed up, but anybody sign up. Help us in this movement. We have parents, we have taxpayers, we got everybody. We're going to get our schools back. We're going to make classrooms great again by focusing on academics and pro-Americanism back in the classroom. That's the way this country was 50 years ago. That's what the classrooms used to look like. That's what we've got to get back to, and we've got parents engaged. Now it's time to make sure that we've got good teachers in these classrooms for the next generation.
Absolutely. Ryan, thank you so much. Thanks for the great work that you're doing.
Thank you, Dom. I appreciate you very much.
All right, Ryan Walters here on Talk Radio 1210 and on America at Night, and that is exactly where we are headed. All right, phone lines to get in, 833-482-5337. That gets you to me. Coming up, a disturbing connection between the two alleged assassins, or attempted assassin, that would be Thomas Crooks, who's deceased in the shooting of President Trump, and then the guy who allegedly shot Charlie Kirk. There is a couple of things, but one is almost hard to believe. I'll tell you about that. And I want to talk with you about the communist curriculum they're doing in Florida that Ryan just talked about, how effective I think this can be, and why I don't think there's any argument against it. Well, we'll see about Joe McCarthy and McCarthyism. Dom Giordano, follow on Twitter at Dom Show, at Dom Show 1210, here on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
It is America at Night with Dom Giordano pinch hitting tonight. You just heard Ryan Walters and what goes on in schools vis-a-vis socialism. But I was teasing about the two, the crooks who tried to kill President Trump and the guy who did allegedly kill Charlie Kirk. They both were into the fairy world, this animal-like experience that is bizarre, to put it mildly. And according to the FBI and other reports out today, and there's a lot more about crooks to be known. Not that I believe the FBI is covering anything up. I have faith in Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. But there's increasing looks at crooks. What exactly happened there? Why did we not know more about him? And it kind of plays into the other alleged assassin. They both share somewhat similar profile. All right, we'll see how that develops. We'll see more of it. But Ryan Walters and I talking about socialism, about communism, this curriculum in Florida is spot on. One of the biggest problems with this, and we're trying to get on the mayor of Seattle, I think we might succeed here in America at Night one of these nights, is a test case of this, along with Mondani, that people are excited. This is new. This is something never tried before. What an experiment. Where I am in Philadelphia, we have one of the most progressive, meaning doesn't prosecute criminals, DAs in the country. And one of the things about Larry Krasner is that people are excited. Like this is new. Like this is, the juices are flowing. This experiment. People are getting killed, just like socialism, just like communism. But there's a sense that stuff like this has never been tried before. That's part of the draw. That's part of the excitement. As opposed to, it certainly has been. Look at the suffering caused by communism. So why in the world would not Florida address it in that manner? I'll give you a little bit more of the particulars of this because the Joe McCarthy stuff and McCarthyism is interesting, how they deal with it. They might go a bit too far here. But the broad stroke is all the way through kindergarten, communism is addressed. Now, I don't think they read Karl Marx in kindergarten, but they put things in that at each grade level are on the understanding of kids so that this is not seen as a new thing, as something exciting. This is just another theory, a bankrupt theory. That goes a long way to stopping this sort of surge. There's several other things that have to be done, but that's something that's very helpful. All right, you can follow me on Twitter at DomShow1210. Dom Giordano sitting in on America at Night. All of it happening right here on Westwood One.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
It's America at Night with Dom Giordano pinch hitting tonight at 833-482-5337. Dom with an M, D-O-M. Giordano out of Talk Radio 1210 in Philadelphia. All right, we've talked tonight about socialism, communism. Ryan Walters from Oklahoma, former head of schools there, how they dealt with it. This is a broader thing. Ron DeSantis may never be president, the governor of Florida. And yet, when you take a look at anything Republicans, conservatives, even MAGA want done thoroughly, really drilling down the details, not just bloviating about it, there's no doubt in my mind what DeSantis has done in Florida and continues to do. And his problem the last time was when you run for president, it's a bigger thing than I got things done as governor. It's about the bigness of it, the story. Obama's story, first African-American type of thing. Trump, the charisma, the background, the one of a kind. And he ran into that Trump buzzsaw, and he just didn't appear to have what it takes to win a presidential campaign. But next time around, he'll be running against J.D. Vance. And I don't see any reason why a DeSantis could not beat a J.D. Vance. I mean, I get Vance. I get his intelligence, his backstory. But I don't see him as overwhelming at all when it comes to the bigness of running for president. And I'm mentioning that because DeSantis now has gotten, he made news a couple of years ago. Maybe it was a couple. About how they were going to teach black history, the curriculum in Florida. You may remember that. It was quite a outpouring, a battle over it. And he really drilled down and duked it out over the details for once, not just vague 30,000-foot level. So Florida's new curricula, there's several things about it with communism. The standards start already at kindergarten. It's page after page after page of detailed stuff about what should be taught about communism. And, you know, what teacher, how would you defend communism? What are we going to give as another point of view other than to give it and dismiss it? But there are several parts to this that have people talking about it. One of which is the term that we get coming out of this that has stuck way back to 1950, 52 or so, McCarthyism, Joe McCarthy. Now, I just recently finished a biography of McCarthy that I think was fair and showed how this guy was able to galvanize rooting out communists who were in every walk of life, and they were there. It's the time of the Rosenbergs, who were convicted and executed for giving scientific secrets that led the Soviet Union toward getting the atomic bomb. We really had them pinned down before that, and the advantage that really accelerated their drive to be able to compete with us with nuclear weapons. So McCarthy, though, in Florida is treated pretty deferentially. And I don't know that that's the way to go either. In other words, you know, they're pushing back, I get it, on the backlash that McCarthy got. They do take on people like Castro, well, you can imagine in Miami and Florida. Certainly you want to do that. Now the members of the Board of Education appointed by DeSantis applauded the standards as historically grounded and necessary, backed by 4 of the 5 public speakers on it. Meanwhile, the McCarthyism expert said the standards present a very narrow and repressive view of American history that reinforces the status quo and obscures historical movements that spark social and political change. But with socialism in the news, the woman in Seattle, the Washington Post, their editorial today, big editorial, really went after her and saying, how in the world is this woman going to manage a budget of $9 billion? Look at her background. There's no background here on anything except socialism. And she wants to make people pay digital taxes and broader taxes and over this amount of income. Seattle might be more radical as far as what's going to happen than even Mondani in New York. He just throws in a lot of anti-Semitism on top of it. So I don't know across the country how many states actually have a curriculum, what should be taught point by point by point. This goes into kindergarten, as DeSantis has done in Florida. I commend it overall. I think this is exactly the approach that's needed in order to uproot some of this nonsense that makes socialism hot, like, wow, this is new, this is exciting, it's an experiment. Why didn't we see this before? I got the juices flowing. I want to go after the rich. Why do they have that? That kind of thing. There's one other thing, too. I thought around the horn, around the country here in America at night. One of the problems, and I'm not going to be a talk radio hack and pretend otherwise. One of the problems why these people succeed, we hear that everybody in the world is going to move out of New York. I don't think they are. Now, will it be enough to hurt? Possibly. Case in point, New Jersey has been run the last 25, 30 years by progressive Democrats, almost extremely. You saw what happened in the recent election. People do move out of Jersey, but it's not enough where it stops them. In other words, they're gambling. There are things about living in New York City, not for me. When I go there, I've lived in big city all my life. It's way over the top dealing with New York, the cost, the aggression, the traffic, and everything else. Never would I want to live there. Philadelphia's got everything I want without that sort of aggravation. Yet, there are people that want that. It's in their blood, and there's enough of them. And it is exciting, particularly if you're younger, unmarried, the whole thing. The affordability, though, is a big penalty. Jersey, there's a sense of place, of culture, of food, language, the whole thing. People want to be in Jersey. Their family's there. They don't want to move to some state they don't know anything about. Now, I'm not so sure how many states have that. Some states have the weather. Some states have this sense of place, like where I am in Philadelphia. You're Philadelphia Eagles, that kind of thing. There are roots. There are things that are popular. So progressives can get away with a whole lot more because people deep down don't want to move. Now, in New York, maybe they'll move to Long Island. Maybe they'll move, there's talk, out of Manhattan to the outer parts of New York. But Mandani's going to throw that net over them. As long as they're in his jurisdiction, that's going to happen. Seattle, I'm not sure if it has as much of a sense of place. I think people love living in the Northwest. It's beautiful and all that stuff. And maybe it does. Will people flee this? Will they vote with their feet? We'll see. And is it enough to strike enough of a blow that this nonsense gets stopped? There's going to be some. They're already moving out of the schools. But is it enough to be fatal to socialism, to communism? That's what they're banking on. That people are not really going to move out of New York. They'll just adjust to this. They have enough money. They don't like it. They'll hate that, but they still want all the things that New York brings. That's how they get away with this stuff. It's a rather simple thing, and there's a tension here. Not everybody's going to move to a red state. I hear people saying that in elections. Well, why don't you just move to a red state then? Because people are connected to where they are. That's the problem. All right, phone lines, 833-482-5337, 833-482-5337. Do you like what Florida is doing here as far as an attempt? Now, it's communism. It's not socialism. Here's the other thing. Little experiment with you. Football is like crack cocaine, NFL to people. I mean, I couldn't even tell you. I love sports. Basketball is my sport. I couldn't even tell you, though, college football. It's too much stuff, too many teams, too many games. But the NFL, I could tell you. And I maintain that the NFL is a socialist enterprise. In other words, they're all in it together. The main idea is to make money for all the franchises. Yes, they sort of compete, but there's parity. Philadelphia Eagles have something called the tush push, which I think the league will ban ultimately because the rest of the league can't stop it. They want these teams to be as close. They don't want, I don't think they certainly want the Eagles or the Kansas City Chiefs probably to win the Super Bowl again this year. Why? Well, it's bad for the product. It's socialism. They're all in it together. The NFL is just the corporation, and all these teams are like the branch offices. So is it something that represents America, NFL football? My God, they were playing in Madrid, Spain over the weekend. Is it really a socialist enterprise? Case in point, I'm against the draft. Why should I be told where I have to go and play? So we do have examples of socialism. They're not communist. That crop up. Is that good socialism? Do we need a little bit of socialism? All right, I get you in at 833-482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Yes, it absolutely is. Dom Giordano pinch hitting for Rich tonight on America at Night at 833-482-5337. That's how you get on board. Where I am in Philadelphia, well, in Pennsylvania, we have a guy you'll see in the end. It's a long time off, I know, but this guy is the ultimate political chameleon. He's a menace, in my view, politically. That's Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. Well, tonight, under his watch, ICE has arrested this Uzbekistan criminal, illegal alien, and wanted terrorist driving an 18-wheeler in Kansas. And he got his licensure to drive this commercial truck driver. Governor Josh Shapiro's Pennsylvania apparatus issued him a commercial driver's license. The Biden administration granted him work authorization in January 2024. So the question becomes, we know about Biden. He illegally entered the United States in February 2023, was then arrested by U.S. Border Patrol, released into American communities by the Biden administration. And somehow or another, even with that background, he's a wanted terrorist. He got his commercial truck driver's license. Now, how often have we seen this, these maniacs on the highways that are here illegally, smashing into things, killing Americans? In California, we know about Newsom. How in the world did he get it in Pennsylvania? Well, tonight, where I am, there's a big investigation to determine how could someone with that background get the ability to have that license when arrested in Kansas in the last couple of days. I guess this was released on the 17th. So arrested in Kansas because of this background, driving an 18-wheeler. I mean, it's bad enough that guys like Shapiro, Biden, and others allow this to flow in, lecture us about the borders and one thing after another, and every progressive and Democrat on their side. But we have to give them a license to be on the highway, to potentially commit, and this is the guy wanted for terrorism. Sure, give him an 18-wheeler in Kansas. Sure, give him a trucker's license here in Pennsylvania. And on it goes. But this is pretty stunning stuff here in Pennsylvania tonight. Watch for more on this. I'm not sure how ICE was able to track him down. But I told you at the top of the show tonight that a couple of ICE spokespeople are out there saying that they're going to go after employers now. They're going to go after and try to get more people to self-deport. It's guesstimated maybe 1 million people have self-deported that are here illegally. You put some of these guys in jail, you go after them even for a night, I think you're going to see a dip in employment opportunities. And when that happens, you're going to see more self-deportation. It's an easier thing to do rather than just rounding up millions of people. It's to cut off the source. So this guy from Uzbekistan, criminal illegal alien, wanted terrorist, thanks to Pennsylvania's governor and the apparatus set up here, I guess there's not much background checking. How much do you need to get his licensure? So apparently he could have been, at least by that piece of paper, driving legally, even though he's here illegally. He's wanted for terrorism and other things. It's just put that on your radar screen. In other words, it's not just California doing this stuff. Apparently Pennsylvania, who knows now how many illegals are driving big rigs in Pennsylvania. All right, Paul in Globe, Arkansas, Arizona is with us. KRVN. Hey, Paul, welcome to America at Night.
Hey, thank you. Great show. And I think what Donald Trump needs to do is establish clarity and quit tap dancing around and flip-flop in his positions. Illegal means illegal. There is no country on the earth that's surviving that has the kind of an open-door policy like we are having. What do we have, 30, 50 million illegals? We have know nothing about their health. There's the arguments are out there. Now, and we know why the Democrats are doing this. They want the cheap votes, and the Republicans want the cheap labor. It's time to stop the word salad nonsense, to get clarity, and Donald Trump should be the man to carry that flag and say, look, these people, if you are here illegal, you have nothing coming, no benefits of any kind. And there's no reason for you to stay here because you're going to get nothing, no subsidies, no money, no jobs, nothing. Go back to where you came from, come in legally. We have a country to run, and we're never going to be able to operate this country the way we're doing it by allowing millions of people to just pour in here willy-nilly, knowing nothing about their health, the diseases they bring.
Yeah, the disease part. You're right, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Is a big part of this. Well, look, President Trump, when they've gone after employers, is not really backed ICE. That's the big story tonight. All right, coming up, one of my all-time favorites, E.J. Antoni is an economist with the Heritage Foundation. Want to talk with him about the 50-year mortgage, affordability, tariffs, and will people get that $2,000 tariff check that President Trump talked about tonight? We'll dive into all that. You're listening to Dom Giordano on America at Night on Westwood One.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
That's exactly right. Dom Giordano from Talk Radio 1210 in Philadelphia. One of our favorites, our go-to in all matters, the economy, affordability, etc., is E.J. Antoni from the Heritage Foundation. E.J., great to talk with you again. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, it's nice to be able to talk with you in the evening, too, not just the afternoon.
And across the country, too. We widen things out a little bit here, EJ. Thank you. So, EJ, what have you been saying? You know, we saw this play out in Jersey. I was quarterbacking the station's coverage on election night, and I thought Jack Ciattarelli slightly likely was going to lose, but under a point and a half, one way or another between the two of them. And then when the blowout happened, suddenly the word affordability became the word of the day. You unpack that. What does that mean right now? Are things unaffordable in your view?
Well, I think so, Dom, absolutely. But it depends on who we're talking about, right? If you already own a home, then you're in a much better situation. You're in a much better financial position. If you don't already own a home, if you're a young couple, let's say, and you're trying to save and be able to own a home one day and have a family, I mean, things are virtually impossible for you unless you're in just a handful of different areas around the country. I mean, literally, there's only 5 or 6 areas in the country, Dom, metropolitan areas, where the median household income can afford a median price home. And again, that's just homes. You look at energy prices, you look at food prices, these things are painfully high. Now, have things gotten better this year? Yes, they have, because incomes have actually risen about 1% faster than prices. But you got to remember, that still doesn't make up for the last 4 years under Biden, where you had exactly the opposite situation, where prices were rising faster than incomes.
EJ, do you sanction and the validity of this stat? Charlie Kirk talked about it and others, that it's close to this at least, that the median age of people getting into the first home, a couple, is 40 years?
It is, Dom. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And, this is a big problem when it comes to things like they talk about the fertility rate, how that has absolutely plummeted here in the United States. And unaffordability of housing actually plays a role in that, because women increasingly do not want to marry a man who can't afford a home. I know that's not politically correct to say, but that's the reality. People want to get married and they want to be able to have a family and have kids. Look, that means for most folks that they're going to need their own home to do that. People a lot of times don't want to raise a family in an apartment. That's the reality of the situation. So if you're not getting married and getting a home until you're 40 years old, don't expect to have a lot of kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I've been waiting all day when we knew we were going to get you on, EJ. The 50-year mortgage, my gut instincts, but you're the economist, opposed to this. We want to do anything to get people into homes, but it just seems like we're having people lease a home. Do you think there's value in that proposal?
Dom, your instincts are spot on here. There really is not any value in it, unfortunately. Now, I understand why they're doing it, right? I understand the thinking, and their hearts are in the right place. Let me say that. They want to try to get people in homes. They want to make things more affordable. The problem is this doesn't do that. As you said, it basically turns you into like a perpetual renter. Most people are only in a home for about 12 or 15 years before they have to move. Well, if that's the case, after 12 or 15 years, you have essentially no equity. You've been paying almost entirely interest for the first 12 or 15 years on a 50-year mortgage. I mean, this is just going to trap people into perpetual debt. And right now, the first-time median age for that first-time home buyer is 40 years, as we were saying. Let's say this knocks 5 years off of that, which I think that's doubtful, but let's say it does. You're going to get a home at 35. You're not going to have it paid off until you're 85. One of the biggest reasons, Dom, why people can't retire is because they still have mortgage debt and they can't afford that mortgage payment once they're retired. So now you're basically dooming people to not only that lifetime of debt, but they now have to work. They can't retire until they're 85 years old.
So, EJ, is there, I've talked to people I like and respect, like Congressman Van Drew, and he's talking about getting the builders together, removing red tape, doing something else, because this is a huge problem of despondency and just not the American dream. What can be done to get more people into homes, you think, economically, that makes sense?
Well, definitely building more homes is a
Right,
huge
okay.
part of it. Look, this is
Right.
this is fundamentally a supply and demand mismatch. So we want to increase supply. We do that by building more homes. Also, building more roads. You may say, what on earth does that have to do with it? Look, there are plenty of spaces away from city centers where you could build more homes, but people don't want to live in those areas because the commutes would be too long. Build more roads. Houston has done this. They've done a phenomenal job with this over the years. And if you go down there, it's all a giant city, but it's like suburban sprawl the whole way. Very little of it feels urban because it's just all single-family homes, and it just goes forever. And they can do that because of the extensive highway system they've built. So that's the supply side. Build more homes, build more roads. On the demand side, if you want to make things more affordable, you get demand down. The easiest way to do that is deport 10 million illegal aliens who shouldn't even be here in the first place and are eating up the housing stock while they're here.
How are they able to afford it, though, EJ? I'm in agreement with you, and J.D. Vance said that the other day. He went even higher. How are they doing that? How are they affording the housing?
Because they're getting government assistance. And I know for years we were told, oh, no, that can't happen, that can't happen. Just like they can't get driver's license and everything. How many people have been killed because California gives out fraudulent CDLs to illegal aliens who can't read road signs? They are getting government assistance. Some of them even hold elective office, and some of them have even been voting. So, yes, they are getting assistance, and they are taking things that do belong to Americans. Those are facts.
EJ, one of my favorite things in talking to you about, because it sets me on the right course when I get wound up, are the tariffs. And here in Philadelphia, you would enjoy this, the possible 107% tax on Italian pasta products has set South Philly, which is very Italian, afire. Where are we on the tariffs right now, and what Trump is doing with them?
Well, right now, I think we're basically just kind of in a wait and see. In other words, we're waiting on what the Supreme Court is going to do with the IEEPA tariffs. IEEPA is the mechanism that the president has used for a lot of these tariffs. So we have to wait and see if the Supreme Court rules that he can even use that. The other thing is that we continue to see different deals roll in from various countries. I know the president has been negotiating with Maloney in Italy specifically, citing your example. So I would not be surprised if even before the Supreme Court rules, which probably won't be until January, I would not be surprised if before then you see additional deals and you see those tariff rates come down. That's very likely also to happen with things like banana and coffee in the coming weeks.
Well, let's hope so. Where do we find all things EJ Antoni? Where do we go for you, EJ?
Dom, best place to find me is going to be on X, and the handle there is @RealEJ_Antoni.
Thank you, EJ, very much. Talk to you very soon, like on Wednesday, I believe, on my own show.
You got it. Sounds
Thanks,
good, Dom.
EJ. Thank you. EJ Antoni here. All right, a lot unpacking. The 50-year mortgage are people I have in Philadelphia, enamored with that. I agree with his breakdown on it. It's well-intentioned. But look at where it takes us. Look at where it would go. My God, it's not a solution. President Trump out there tonight, too, at the McDonald's summit, pitching, and he's right to do this. We lose sight of when it kicks in, which is mainly the new year, the big, beautiful bill, the no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security in some cases, no tax on overtime, is all big. I'm glad he's talking about that, but I'm glad he's addressing affordability rather than saying it's a hoax. I still hear people saying this. What are we talking about? Look how bad, right, acknowledge how bad it was with Biden. But 40 years, and I really trust EJ on this, 40 years is the median age of people getting into their first home, meaning the same number below as above, the median. Wow, it's just not America. That's a longer-term job, but there has to be some breakthrough, some hope with that. Grocery store prices, I think they're on it. I think you're seeing some degree of success on that. And as we head to the midterm, President Trump saying tonight that $2,000 tariff checks will go out to people in certain income levels because of the benefits of tariffs. And he said that would happen sometime after June, maybe July 4th. in time for the midterms. But what Trump has to do vis-a-vis the midterms is go out there, barnstorm, make it clear to reluctant Trump voters, meaning they only vote if Trump's on the ballot. If you don't vote, are you kidding me? Because if Democrats win the midterms, Trumpism is over. The last 2 years, I don't care what you try with executive order, they're going to block everything. There's going to be constant impeachment back and forth. It will be more ferocious than ever. Okay, coming to your calls. You get in at 833-482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
It's Dom Giordano pinch hitting on America at Night. Let's go to your calls at 833-482-5337. You heard EJ Antoni. Great stuff. Summarizing, where we're crystallizing around the issues around the economy, affordability, and the 50-year mortgage. Let's go to Bob in Eugene, Oregon, and KUGN. Bob, welcome in.
Yep. Welcome. How are you?
Good, Bob. Go right ahead.
Oh, I'm telling Rich that I'm doing a podcast too.
Okay, Bob. Good luck with that. Thank you very much. Let's go to Keith. Thank you, Bob. In Loris, South Carolina, WTMA. Hey, Keith, good evening.
How you doing, Dom? Thanks for taking the call.
Thank you.
I have a different take on this Epstein file thing that I haven't heard anybody say yet.
Okay.
The reason I believe it's so slow in coming out, and you've already seen some of this happen with King Charles stripping Andrew of all royal privileges, his titles, and everything because of his involvement with Epstein. There's so many world leaders, I think, that are going to be so involved with this that everything the Democrats have thrown at Trump hasn't stuck. But if they can throw this and ruin his credibility on the world stage and ruin the relations that he's built with other countries for the United States, it's just another feather in their cap to turn around and say, look what he's done. He's ruined relationships and this, that, and
Well, the only thing is, though, Trump is the one trying to prevent this up until now. So why would he take the blame for ruining the? They could try. Democrats are going to try to do all kinds of things with this, but Keith, I think the bottom line is they're going to overreact as they've done already, and as a result, it'll be a negative. Thank you, Keith. Thanks very much. No, I've had on the best people that even speak with the president. They are unsure about what he's protecting here. Nothing seems to be about Trump. We would have seen it already during the Biden years. They would have released it. They would have put it out there in some way, shape, or form. The news tonight, though, by the people I've had on in Philadelphia and everything else I see, they're talking on the Republican side, this could be unanimous or close to unanimous to release the files. And then it's going to be pretty interesting to hear the Trump take on why he can't do it or what it is that might be holding that up. I'm not sure that's what he's going to say. But this is quite a turnaround. Up until Sunday, it was only maybe 10 to 15 Republicans you could count on that were going to vote to release the file. That would have been enough along with Democrats to move it forward to the Senate. Now, though, it appears to be at least 100 or more are poised to do that. And I don't think there's going to be blowback from MAGA world, supporters of the president on this, because he, at least on paper, on Truth Social, has said, yes, release the file. Will this ever get released? That's a big, I would put it at 50-50 at best, that we'll see the complete file. Is it going to be embarrassing to various elements? Yes. As far as we can tell with Trump, though, there's nothing here criminal or nothing here added on than what we've already seen. All right, 833-482-5337. That gets you on board. We heard from E.J. Antoni breaking down some of this economic material, and I think spot on with that as far as where are we. Coming up, Bill Maher with his Friday night show really gives you the reality of what's going to happen, I believe, in Seattle, also in New York. I think Seattle could turn to be worse with the new socialist mayor. That's straight ahead on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Democrats must recognize that Zohran Mamdani is the future of the party. Unfortunately, it's the Republican Party. We've run this experiment many times, and the results are always obvious. Here's capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. Yeah. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, homes. Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's Socialism for the 21st Century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century, or any century, a fucking mess. It turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. Low wages, high inflation, shortages, outages, 8 million people fleeing. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening.
All right, awakening from Bill Maher. That's Bill Maher on Friday night talking about it, and I think that should be played in every college campus, every high school in America. That's exactly right what we're going to see. By the way, we talked about this story of the CDL licensure. This guy from Pennsylvania somehow or another got a license, this maniac, illegal here, criminal, and they get him from Uzbekistan in Kansas up to mischief with an 18-wheeler. Several people out there tonight saying there's a vast, call it a mill or mills, CDL mills, where these companies are essentially able to aid and abet almost anyone getting a license to drive an 18-wheeler. This is another crackdown area. This is where we need undercover stuff. Every one of these places, if true, engaging in anything like this, maximum penalty. These guys are putting American jobs, American lives, they're putting our country at risk, and they need to be stopped. So the CDL mills might be something on your agenda to take a look at. Dom Giordano sitting in tonight on America at Night. You can follow me on Twitter at DomShow1210. I invite you to be there to engage in that. And isn't it refreshing to hear a guy like E.J. Antoni from the Heritage Foundation lay out clearly economically what the odds are, where we are, and what we're up against? We'll have more of that here on America Tonight. Dom Giordano sitting in on Westwood 1.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
At night, welcome all across America with Dom Giordano from Talk Radio 1210 in Philadelphia, sitting in tonight. You reach us at 833-482-5337, 833-482-5337. A lot of attention and a bigger spasm than usual the last couple of weeks about young men. Why are they not Democrats? Steve Portnoy, Barstool Sports. Well, it's pretty obvious why. The Democrats have rejected, he says, and he's right, normal men, toxic masculinity, particularly white males. Scott Galloway, this guy out of NYU, was on with Bill Maher the other night, and his advice was young men ought to drink more together, bond together around alcohol, do some stupid stuff with social media. That'll be with you forever. But the most interesting of all over the weekend, and this has been just pummeled on Twitter, and I think it's nerdy at best, but we're going to see if anybody differs with this or they have a better solution. Bill Ackman is a billionaire. Bill Ackman is a big MAGA donor. Bill Ackman is a guy that took on Penn. I think he's a Penn alum, or he was connected with that in their wokeism, and Ivy League schools in general. So he's got a lot of good stuff there. But he wrote on Twitter on Saturday, I hear from many young men who find it difficult to meet young women in a public setting. In other words, the online culture has destroyed the ability to spontaneously meet strangers. As such, I thought I would share a few words that I used in my youth to meet someone that I found compelling. Now, it's not just the opposite sex or same-sex dating, sex situation. It's in general, but mainly to approach women if you're a guy in this climate where it seems to be difficult to do that. For example, Gallup reporting shocking numbers. Record numbers of younger women defined as 15 to 44 want to leave America. 2025, 40% of women, 40% age 15 to 24, say they would move abroad permanently if they had the opportunity. The current figure is 4 times the 10% who shared the same desire in 2014, when it was generally in line with other ages and gender groups. In other words, daydreaming, yeah, I'd like to live in Italy. What the heck? Now, it's they want to leave America. And this is a voting bloc that's been fueling all this angst and Democrats, abortion, etc. So there's that. Back to Ackman now. He says, here are the magic words. Write these down. Be ready. When he sees somebody he thinks might be compelling over here in whatever it might be, a woman, a bar, a public situation, he says, I would ask, are you ready? May I meet you? Yep, there you go. Write it down tonight from America at Night. May I meet you before engaging further in conversation? I almost never got a no. It inevitably enabled the opportunity for a further conversation. I met a lot of really interesting people this way. I think the combination of proper grammar and politeness was the key to the effectiveness. Notice, not can I meet you, may I meet you. You might give it a try. And yes, I think it would also work for women seeking men as well as the same interaction. All right, so this is the age-old thing. What kind of icebreaker, what kind of thing do you do to meet someone given the situation that's degenerated to everything has to be online, profiles, and all that? May I meet you? Now, as I said on Twitter, I didn't see how many people responded to this, but it is pretty overwhelming of people saying nerdy at best, rejecting it, ruthlessly mocking it. Now, some of it could be from people on the left who don't like Ackman because he's a big MAGA donor, because of his connection with pushing back against Penn in some of these Ivy League schools, pushing back against anti-Semitic thought, etc. But I'm amazed that he put it up. This is really dangerous ground, particularly on Twitter. May I meet you? Love to hear from women on this. Would that be effective, or would you think, what the heck is up with this guy? 833-482-5337. May I meet you? 833-482-5337. That's the best you got. Now, think of all the lines. I'm not sure what the number one line today is, or they don't seem to be as many because people are going online. Fakery of their profile, of every, you know what I mean, the whole thing that goes into it. But may I meet you is his advice, that this will be seen, and I think he's right, it shouldn't be seen as creepy or threatening, at least. But is it effective? Does it have any kind of cachet in dealing with this problem? And one of the biggest purveyors of the problem is the Democrat Party in their attack on toxic masculinity and men in general. Yeah, but Dom, what about some of the leaders that, well, they're the worst. The leaders that get there in the Democrat Party that are male and white, they have to then turn on other men to show their bona fides in order to be a leader in the Democrat Party, even though they are increasingly marginalized there. They're increasingly seen as a large part of the problem. All right, phone lines, 833-482-5337. Is that an effective bit of advice? Are people around America going to be walking up and saying, may I meet you? And as he said, it's the politeness and it's also the proper grammar, may asking for permission, not can, which is the ability to do something. It was relentless on Twitter for this poor guy on this. I think he was trying to do a good turn, but I don't know. Is that effective? And this now preoccupation with younger men under fire. We heard E.J. Antoni on the show tonight, noted economist, saying that some women will not marry men or want to be involved with them seriously because they don't think they'll be able to ever or soon to buy and get into a home, put a down payment and do all that. That is a fact of life. That is very difficult. That is something that creates despondency, creates difficulty. If you remember, Trump in 2024, when he went on that bro tour with some of these idiots, I think, including Joe Rogan, did affect some of these young men, some of these voters, to turn them out. Democrats are able to turn out younger women who want to leave America, and particularly on the issue of abortion constantly. But I just saw this flap today and thought it was pretty funny. May I meet you? Try that out, and some might let me know. Is that effective? You're going to try that out. I don't know. It takes a lot of guts to be doing the may I meet you situation. 833-482-5337 gets you to me. Headlines tonight. We see that ICE says they're going to now crack down on not just people here illegally. They're going to go after the employers who are knowingly doing this. Finally. I mean, how does the other side reply to that? How do they push back on that? How are they going to tell us sympathetically there's anything wrong with that? I don't see how you can. I mean, that is a group exploiting people for profit and exploiting America. So that is a big deal. Now we're going to see if the president intervenes. He sort of has in the past, but I'm glad to see ICE is on this path, and that's where they're going to go next. I think within 24 hours you're going to be hearing some raids, some stuff around that. And if that happens, I think that could put a big dent in employment, which is the lure, and people have to self-deport then. Does it filter down? Yeah. If some of these people go to jail or there's a threat of jail, not just fines, I think you're going to see more compliance. The argument is, yeah, and guess what's going to happen? If that happens, America will not be able to function. If we don't have these people here massively doing the work that, quote, Americans won't do, then the whole experiment's not going to work. And President Trump tonight on home turf with McDonald's owners and suppliers and all that in Washington, talking about affordability and talking about a $2,000 tariff check to go out sometime after June of 2026, right in the center of the midterms. But I'm interested in this whole thing with younger males. The approach of Scott Galloway with Bill Maher saying drink more together communally and make more mistakes. Oh, man, you're really asking for it with that. Is that what it comes down to? Really? And on the other side, though, Ackman saying, may I meet you? Unusual. How would you feel if someone approached you in that manner versus the usual? May I meet you? The grammar's proper, etc. He's right about that. All right, I am coming to your calls. And I'll tell you, too, coming up, a tariff that is causing big trouble where I am in Philadelphia, maybe across the country, involving pasta. And the ancient battle, is it gravy or sauce? See if you can guess where I come down on that. All righty, 833-482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
That's exactly right. And you can be part of it here on America at Night with Dom Giordano sitting in. May I meet you? If you call in, I can. 833-482-5337. Amazed me that Bill Ackman put that up today, and it was a kindly term, but man, on Twitter, just brutal, the response to that. And it's all in this banner of young men. Finally, a look at them, where they're going to go, boys in school, the grades down, the toxic masculinity, the Democrat Party rejecting particularly straight white males overall. It's been out there for a while, just coming to a head. What's the remedy for it? Well, Bill Ackman was throwing his 2 cents in. Let's go to John in Cleveland, Ohio, WEOL. Hey, John, good evening.
Hello. I think one of the biggest hoaxes and myths is that we have any kind of a threat of communism in this country, or that the Democrats or the Republicans, but especially the Democrats, are accused by 1,500 right-wing radio stations owned by big business, capitalist, billionaires, right-wingers, who every day, 24/7, 365 days a year, have a tsunami of right-wing propaganda to 300 million Americans, and then falsely pretend that they're the underdog, that they when in fact those right-wing stations, Republican-oriented, are matched by the Democrats and their ideology. There is bipartisanship in this country, and it has been this kind of witch hunting, red baiting, Russia baiting, Putin baiting, Maduro baiting across the board for 100 years. And I think we ought to get somebody besides that to save us from this trillions of dollars that go into the merchants of death every year out of our taxes.
Okay, well, John, let's unpack some of that. So I guess you've been like Rip Van Winkle. You've been asleep during New York City, Mandami, self-described socialist, probably communist, and the woman in Seattle, another major city, winning election and promising socialism. What about that?
What about that? There is no socialism. If you would check the World Socialist website, WSWS.org, they are criticized by real socialists. You're using the Overton and redefinition, false definition of socialism to say that to try to support this kind of witch hunting attitude.
Wait, I'm not doing anything. Wait a minute. So Mondami, how do we describe John? He says he's a socialist. That's not good enough for you.
He says he's a democratic socialist.
Obvious ruse, but socialist is part of that. Which part of that, John, are you missing? Why not just say he's a Democrat? Why not just say he's a progressive? Why a socialist?
Why can't you say the Democratic Party? You never have add that IC on.
Oh, you notice that? Well, I love doing that, John, just to irritate maybe. Thank you, John. Thanks for raising that. That suddenly talk radio, we're the overlord, not the underdog. No, they still control a lot of the media. They still control academia. They still control Hollywood. Look at the institutions up and down the line, and if not the left, at least liberals control those. And Mondami describes them, say, puts Democrat in there, or Democratic, in order to soften the blow a little bit. I believe he's a communist, though, at least closer than that, than even socialism. And the woman in Seattle is even probably further left based upon some of the things that she said. They're telling us where we are. People are saying, let's go after the rich. Let's take our fair share. Let's tax even more than we're taxed. We're listening to them. We're reporting on what they're doing. And we're not talking about liberal Democrats. And Bill Maher makes this distinction all the time, and he's right. We're talking about progressives that have taken over the party more than anything that we'll see. But I'm so glad John called, though. I mean, that's refreshing. He listens to talk radio, and he thinks that we are the overlord. Look, we haven't moved toward parity yet, but versus how it used to be, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago, talk radio is a major player. Fox News is a major player. A lot of social media has helped. Podcast influencers have helped. But that doesn't mean the left is still not in control of the means of production or the means of mass media. They are. It's an obvious thing when you take a look at ABC, CBS, NBC, the whole alphabet soup, the New York Times, etc. They are in control of that point of view, what they say is mainstream and not. Washington Post today talked about how disturbing their editorial it is that we have a socialist in control in Seattle. They really went after the new candidate and said she's literally never had a job until her late 30s. How in the world can she manage a $9 billion budget? Well, she'll screw it up. That's what she's going to do. That's how she's going to manage it. All right, you get in at 833-482-5337. Jump on board, and may I meet you. Is that an effective way to meet women or men? Says Bill Ackman. My name is Dom Giordano, Democrat, not Democratic, sitting in on America at Night on Westwood 1. Dom Giordano sitting in on America at Night. Monday Night Football, I think it was just a little while ago, the Epstein PSA of the victims played during the NFL game tonight. That's a big platform, a reminder of tomorrow, the significance of releasing the files, trying to get to the bottom of it once and for all, wherever the chips fall. And I'm told by pretty reliable people, and tomorrow we'll know on America at Night, that Republicans might vote pretty close to unanimously to release the files. Now, does that mean they'll be released at that moment? Can Trump release them on his own or not? Still a matter of a lot of debate. But the Republicans tomorrow I think, are on the right side of where America is at this point. And I had Bill O'Reilly on today. He was making the case that, no, there's going to be a lot of people that are innocent that just knew Epstein, maybe an email here or there saying something that just has no basis in reality. That's the argument why he said the inspector general ought to be the one making a determination. I differ with that. This has to come out. That's where the chips are going to fall. And this PSA tonight of some of the victims, young women then holding their picture up then and now, appeared on Monday Night Football. That's a big buy. And tomorrow is a big moment in this whole saga. Will tomorrow's vote then still the waters completely? No, Democrats are going to overreach on this. They just want to go after Trump with it. They had 4 years during Biden, could have been released then. But the Republican Party in the main tomorrow is going to do the right thing and vote to release the files. I don't know what Mike Johnson will do since he's in leadership. It could be unanimous. And that would be, let's see how the media reports that. If Republicans vote unanimously or close to unanimously, there have been a couple of holdouts that have tonight said no, they're going to vote to release. The Congress people that I've had on, they said they would vote to release the files. So this is a big moment, and we'll have full coverage tomorrow night and talk about it. Let's go to Frank in Cumberland, Maryland, WCBC. Hello, Frank.
Those American ships in the Caribbean blowing up what they call drug runners. Is that the U.S. Navy or a lynch mob? I mean, if you kill somebody without a trial, that's called lynching, isn't it? What are we doing?
Well, no, Frank, I think we have pretty good intelligence on that. And again, if you think that's an impeachable offense, since Trump is the one that's ordering it, that's where we should go. Do you think that Democrats have the stomach to impeach Trump on stopping fentanyl from coming into the country?
Well, I don't know, but all I know is, isn't someone supposed to say something? I haven't seen anything in the newspapers or anything from Congress. I mean, if you're killing people without giving them a fair trial, that's murder.
Well, I differ with you, Frank. These are murderers. These are people drug running. And we're not going to bring them to trial because we may not be able to apprehend them. But if people in Congress want to do that, I would agree with you. Congress has a role in this, and the role would be impeachment. Thank you, Frank, to bring articles of impeachment against President Trump on it around Frank's points. I think America is solidly on board with this, and they get we're not just doing this willy-nilly. I think we're going to talk to Congresswoman Salazar tomorrow night about Venezuela and about things related to it, and we'll talk with her about the Epstein situation and how the vote goes down. Eduardo is in Tampa, Florida, streaming on WLS. Eduardo, welcome to the show. Hi.
Good evening. Well, I got news for Frank. These boats have been going through ports in Netherlands,
right,
and in Spain. Yep. Karen, with the PM in Netherlands has praised these shoot downs because all that drugs have been going over there. They've been Brussels, where the European Union is. There's a town called Antwerp, Antwerp.
Yep.
That is the shootout gallery over there.
And that was a very prominent city or town during World War II because of the port situation. It was pivotal toward the end of the war. So, yeah, Eduardo, I'm aware of what you're talking about, and we have intelligence gathering on this. And again, if they believe that America really supports the idea, we just have to catch these people somehow or another, bring them to trial. Democrats should bring that on. They're not doing it because they know America supports this.
Yeah, and one more thing. So I just saw a BBC report today. They're having a big fight over there with illegal immigration in the UK. So far this year, they had close to 40,000 boat crossings across the channel.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's
quite
a
ridiculous.
number. It definitely is. Thank you, Eduardo. That's an extreme number. I think that's a tough cross. You talk about choppy seas. I've never done that. I can't imagine that going on. But, we're going to talk about that tomorrow night, this thing in Venezuela. By the way, just one thought to impart to you. I am not a tariff guy. There's a reason why I've never been a tariff guy, that Republicans, conservatives have not been, and President Trump, thank God, is backing away a little bit on this. But where I am in Philadelphia, the Italian market, 9th Street, if you've been to Philadelphia, very Italian, big rage today because there's a threat of a potential 107% pasta tariff. The U.S. Commerce Department say that pasta makers in Italy sold their product into the United States at below market prices and undercut local competitors. Now, their answer is that, and I'm just back from Italy, it was a great trip, Sicily and Calabria, with about 60 Talk Radio 1210 listeners, and spectacular, the food. American pasta just doesn't cut it. When you're in Italy, you can have a sense it's native to them. You really can't compete with that, even though there are American pasta brands, and there's a fight over this. Pasta was kept off the list of the 200 food items that President Trump has said he would now remove from the tariff list because of the rising costs of groceries. So we'll see how this plays out. That would cripple. And Italy is our biggest exporter, or we import from Italy goods like this, second only to Germany. So just being back from there, 107% tariff, you can imagine that is amazingly out of step. As I mentioned, though, the Epstein PSA played during Monday Night Football. What a venue for it. The cost has to be astronomical. So this is not going away. And tomorrow, Republicans, I think, get on the right side of this. Democrats will do what they did last week when they redacted a name of one of the victims, because that victim had given a clean bill of health to President Trump. So they redacted it because they didn't want that name to be out there, knowing that. They're going to overplay their hand, is what I'm saying. And Republicans tomorrow, my hope is that the vote is unanimous. Anybody that votes not to reveal it, we'll talk about them tomorrow night, and we can question what the motives are. We're going to see how President Trump responds. I think the vote will be overwhelmingly passed tomorrow. What does he do next? Is it just on to the Senate? Does he try to release it? Is there more legal wrangling? And this really puts Pam Bondi in the difficult position. They're going to call her into the House again and grill her. And watch for this. There'll be a big fight over the names that the Justice Department does redact. I don't think they should be redacted. Names of victims, that's one thing. I'm talking about the rich and powerful that are apparently still more to be known. So we shouldn't just be allowing any reference to Bill Clinton to be out there. But if there are people friendly to Trump or Republicans and they're redacted, trust me, ultimately that's going to come out. This is not going away until there is a full... all the time I've been in talk radio, it's shocking what this guy was up to, how protected he was, and even after he got caught and sentenced the first time, it was minimal. Then his death, even in death, it's endless with this guy. It plays into the conspiracy notion that the elites of the world do whatever they want to do. And we want to stop that. We want to try to remove more and more conspiracy. There's only one way to do that. Be transparent, have everything out there on this. Short of that, there's still going to be that onus on it. All righty, it's 833-482-5337. Get in with Dom Giordano, sitting in on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
It's Dom G. Follow me on Twitter at DomShow1210, sitting in tonight, rounding out the show. And as I said, very compelling, this PSA on the victims, showing them when they were much younger on the eve of the big vote around Epstein. Let's go to Tony in Montreal, WVMT. Hey, Tony, how are you tonight?
Dom Giordano, I love listening to you. I wish I would have gone on that trip to Sicily and Calabria. Being an Italian boy in Montreal, I'm just licking my chops for that Italian pasta. And I hope they don't tariff you too much. And if they do, tell me, and I'll send you some great Italian pasta barilla from Montreal, from St. Leo, where I used to live when I was a kid. You'll love it. And to be on point, I think that the Democratic Party has no agenda other than to obstruct Trump and to attack him at all costs. You know, Dom, they're so afraid of him that they're going after skeletons that don't exist. But they don't talk about Clinton, the Clinton Foundation $300 million scam that they have. They don't talk about Whitewater. 27 people got convicted, but the two Clintons didn't get convicted. They don't talk about the erased computer. They don't talk about all of the manipulations that she did with the dossier to create a false narrative against the president of the United States, which is treason. That's a treasonous activity, and she gets away with it. But the whole party is only interested in obstruction. They have no agenda. Look, Trump says America first, and then people in Canada say, why am I for Trump? Well, why don't we, Canada, be first also? Why don't we protect our country like Trump is? Why don't we protect ourselves against illegal immigration, about cost overruns, a government spending that's out of control? Why is this abnormal? Why aren't the Democrats in your country and the liberals in our country on the same page? Don't we not want to be a bankrupt country? Canada has $2 trillion of debt, and you guys have $38 trillion. Saudi Arabia has 250 million. They only have two minerals that they can sell, bitonite and oil. Us, we have every mineral in the world. We could be the richest country in the world, but our liberal government won't allow us to send you oil on a Trans-Canada pipeline. Think about how insane this is. It's impoverishment. It's like returning us to the 1960s Maoist government where the transportation has to be by bikes, as if the green scam is a solution. A green scam is just a smokescreen. Trump is right, the right is right, and the left is never right. That's the way it goes, Dom.
Hey, Tony, I can listen to you all night. It's always good to connect with you. Glad you're still out there. Thank you, Tony. Thanks for listening tonight. Larry's in Myrtle Beach, WRNN. Larry, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, you know, a touch of socialism won't hurt, you know. Like, let me give you a quick story. I jumped off a plane, a 10-minute ride to my house, 4 different taxi companies. They all want to charge me $45. Every four different companies there, right? I said, what's this all about? I said, I'll give you $30, a 10-minute ride, right? So I just started walking. Now, that's what they're doing with these meat packing plants, you know. They're price fixing. And, you know, the government needs to I think the government kind of needs to say, hey, we can't be doing it. It's a monopoly, you know what I mean? Like, there has to be guidelines, you know?
Well, Trump is of the same mind on that, Larry, with the meatpacking plants. Thank you very much. I'm not sure about that. Is it really a monopoly? Are they able to price fix? Does that explain the high cost of it? Or are there other factors with this, including the tariffs, which the big news is he's on the road to admitting some of that? There's a food list of 200 foods. Pasta, though, is not one of them. We're being whacked on pasta. And again, Italian pasta, you know, it's natural to them. It is the product of the country. In America, not quite so much. And I think that's what's happened here. But I'm reading right from this directive, at 107% tariff. You can just imagine. All right, final roundup of the night is coming up. And as I said, tomorrow night, we already know some of the people, some of the things that will be out there. The reaction to the Epstein vote particularly if it's unanimous, will be big news, or if you have just a couple of reluctant Republicans who won't go along with it and their motivation on this. It is time to move on this. And the only way to do that, and it's going to be difficult, is to get everything out. There still will be conspiracy mongering saying it's not all out there. That's why if there's a lot of redacting when this eventually comes out, that's still going to be a problem. All righty, 833-482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, welcome into America at Night with Dom Giordano pinch hitting. Let's go to Sandra in Hurley, New Mexico, KNUW here on America at Night. Hey, Sandra, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi there. Thank you. Okay, so here I just ran for mayor of Hurley. I came in second place. The corruption with elections is through the roof for generations over here. I'm pushing, like I've learned from Mark Levin, that they have no authority over elections except the legislature. So they're being confronted with that document right now. I'm considering running for governor. I want to get Trump's attention because I've been on his presidential advisory board in the past and every other coalition and task force, or any of the Trump family that could give me help over here in terms of I'm pretty much standing alone in this physically. I have
Sandra, you're right about that. The legislature in every state they're the controller of how the infrastructure of elections, and we get into trouble when some other authority tries to subsume that outside the Constitution. Thank you, Sandra. That happened here in Pennsylvania when the legislature balked and allowed a rogue Supreme Court in the 2020 election to say, yeah, you could have your mail-in ballot arrive 3 days after the election was over. Paul in Zanesville, Ohio, WHIZ. Hello, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Dom. Hey, eat pizza. You know, yeah, but I have something to say about the mortgage crisis there. My wife and I just paid off our home, but I would like to give some younger people out there some advice. Go out and buy a piece of land. That way you have something that you can build a structure on, because existing structures are expensive if you go and try to buy. You know, I learned that. But, yeah, that and what about those Ohio State Buckeyes, Rich? Or Dom with an M. What about those Buckeyes back-to-back? What do you think?
They look pretty good. Yeah, they look outstanding. Paul, I'm not going to bet you anymore. I lost to you before, Paul. Have a good night. Thank you. Thanks so much, and I want to get caught up in that. Hey, I do want to thank Rich Good for producing, keeping me going, and Alex Hinton, who is the major domo, the executive producer of America at Night. I'll be back with you tomorrow night, and big day tomorrow. Prediction, Republicans won't be quite unanimous, but it's going to be overwhelming, the vote, to release the files after all this. Where does that get us? We'll have to see the reaction of President Trump and others, but I predict Democrats will overplay their hands, and Trump is not the major focus of any of this. Thanks for listening. Dom Giordano, America at Night on Westwood One.